everyone, this is your Hindsight Historical Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about history repeating itself in the form of the Great Athenian Plague and the modern-day coronavirus. Since this parallel is very broad, for this episode of the podcast, I've decided to focus on how they were both uncontrollably spread and the manner in which they were contracted. To get an understanding of how both these plagues are so wildly similar, we have to travel back in time to Athens, Greece, in 431 BC, the beginning of the Peloponnesian War. And right now we're actually looking at an image of Athens' battle against Sparta during the Peloponnesian War. Now both these powers were really going at it with each other, and neither was backing down. Athens' win at the Battle of Sphacteria motivated Sparta to fight more strategically, and because of this, they were a powerful force. Obviously, the threat of Sparta was enough for Pericles to make all the farmers living in the Athenian countryside move inside the city walls for safety. Now, these cramped and, for the most part, unsanitary living conditions were a breeding ground for disease. In the image we're looking at, you can really see how cramped it was. People were beside each other, and you can see that the sick and the healthy were non-distinguishable at this point. While the population of Athens were all concentrated in the city center, a horrible plague broke out and took out 1/3 of the population. This pandemic was known as the Great Athenian Plague. It struck the city between 430 and 427 BC, re-emerging again in 425 BC. It is believed to have originated somewhere in Ethiopia, traveled through Libya, and suddenly exploded in Athens, entering through the city's port of Piraeus. According to Thucydides, an Athenian historian, the most densely populated section of Athens had the highest frequency of plague victims. In the most vulnerable range were physicians, as they would come in close contact with and treat the sick. As we delve further into his findings, we see that Thucydides in fact reported that the virus could spread from one place to another easily and often covertly. He concluded that the virus could spread from one infected person directly to multiple healthy individuals almost instantaneously. The virus could be contracted through direct or indirect contact with the ill. This means that it was highly contagious and could even live on surfaces for a short period of time. Of course, Athenian physicians attempted many cures. However, they all failed, and eventually any hope of a cure was diminished. After some time, in 426 BC, the plague finally died out, but not before taking a significant number of lives with it. Now, as we fast forward more than 2,000 years, it brings us here to the modern age of 2020. While so much has changed since the ancient ages, a lot seems to repeat itself as well. The phenomenon known as the coronavirus has taken the world by storm and is easily comparable to that of the Great Athenian Plague. COVID-19 first surfaced in Wuhan City, China in December 2019. Interestingly, since then the virus has traveled to every continent except Antarctica. Globally, as of 9:58 a.m. on the 4th of November 2020, there have been 47,059,867 confirmed cases of COVID-19, including 1,207,327 deaths reported to the WHO. The virus seems to be transmitted through water droplets and can be given directly or indirectly, as this virus can also live on objects from an infected individual to a healthy one. COVID-19 has the highest frequency of victims in the most densely populated areas. For example, India, one of the most heavily populated countries in the world, has over 8 million confirmed cases, making them one of the most affected countries by the virus. In addition to this, the elderly and individuals with pre-existing health conditions are all examples of people who are in the high-risk range for contracting and dying with the virus. By looking at both of these pandemics side by side, you can really see how prominent of a historical parallel the Athenian plague is to COVID-19. First of all, they both had an uncontrollable nature about them. They both could not be contained and so far cannot be cured. This could be due to the fact that both the viruses were very contagious, since they were spread and contracted through water droplets. In addition to this, our lack of knowledge of both the viruses contributes in some way to its uncontrollable nature, as we don't have the information we need in order to contain them. Moreover, in both of these cases, for both these viruses, they were higher in more populated areas. Because there were more people in more populated areas, the virus could easily jump from one person to another. Finally, in both cases, individuals showed symptoms differently, which meant that not everyone showed the exact same set of symptoms, so it was really hard to pinpoint what the virus was or what it caused. As you can see here, there are many similarities that can be drawn from both the viruses in terms of the spread of it, as they were both spread through water droplets, how they were both uncontrollable, as we had barely any knowledge of both these viruses, and how they both don't really have cures. Now, although we don't have cures on either one of these viruses, some people in both cases were able to recover from the virus over time, which is another thing we can see mirrored from the Athenian plague to COVID-19. Being in 2020 now, we can learn a lot from the Athenian plague to help us understand the modern-day coronavirus. For example, we can use the Athenian plague as a blueprint of what not to do and what to do to improve the situation. For example, lockdowns and minimizing human contact, unlike the Athenians, can help us drastically. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is your Hindsight Historical Podcast, and we can't wait to see you next time.